Resident Evil 7 is my favorite game of all time. Okay, technically, that's not true. I think for right now, Persona 5 Royal or Persona 4 Golden might be my favorite games of all time, but I had to call this video something, and my third favorite game of all time doesn't really do the trick, you know? But really, for a large majority of my life, Resident Evil 7 has been my favorite game of all time. On Steam alone, I have 75 hours logged onto it, which might not seem like a lot until you also consider the fact that I have played this game extensively on both my Xbox One and my PS5, and I can consistently beat it in under 4 hours per playthrough. I've seen all of my favorite Let's Players play it. I have the game's development logbook talking about its history, and I even have a 30-minute loop of the game's main theme saved onto my phone just to listen to whenever I want. I'm actually listening to it right now as I'm writing this video, actually. It's truly shocking to me that this one game from 2017 has had such an impact on me personally, especially considering the fact that I didn't even play it for the first year of me owning it. Okay, picture this. It's early 2018 and I am bored out of my mind. I didn't have any new games to play, there weren't any movies I wanted to go see. I just sat there scrolling through YouTube, not finding anything interesting. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? Go outside? No, that's gross. So I just sat there. Until I saw this. Markiplier's video, Welcome to the Family, Resident Evil 7, Part 1. Resident Evil 7, huh? I think I've heard a lot of people talk about that recently. Might as well check it out. An expansive story-based horror game? Lots of fun DLC? And hey, it's on discount. So, I buy the game, slap it into my Xbox, and boot her up. I take a second, scroll through all the DLC, look through all the modes, until I finally decide on one called Daughters. Experience the beginning of the Baker's tragic story. Okay, well, it says the beginning, so I should probably start with this. So I begin the DLC, only to come across this scene.
When I ask for rope, I expect to get rope. I'm just gonna have to teach you a lesson.
Daddy! What's gotten into you?
While you're under my roof, you'll do as I say, you hear me?
Get away! Daddy! Stop it! Please!
She's waiting for you.
Oh shit. This horror game is scary. Aw, hell nah, I'm not doing that. Fuck this, dude. So, logically, I did the only thing I could do. Yeah, I called my friend Nick to beat it for me. Not only is Nick far braver than I am, but with him playing, I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the game's story and atmosphere. Also, the game is a first-person shooter, a genre in which Nick is very good at, and I'm not. Together, Nick and I, mostly Nick, beat the entire game together, experiencing everything it had to offer. The insane story, the fun characters, and the absolute tension of the game's horror. By the time my first playthrough had ended, while the story was over, my fascination with the game had only just begun. So on the off chance that you haven't played this game before, let me give you a quick rundown on the opening of the game. In this game, you play a sparkly human cardboard, Ethan Winters. After receiving a message from his long-thought-dead wife, Mia Winters, he travels to Dulvey, Louisiana to search for her. After arriving at an abandoned house and seeing some ritualistic cult shit, Ethan, like a normal person, decides to enter into the abandoned home. After exploring the house for a bit and watching a snuff film set in the house's basement, Ethan, like a normal person, decides to venture into the basement. There, Ethan finds a corpse, some more fucked up shit, and hey, Mia, in what has got to be the worst Airbnb in Louisiana. Instead of, freaking the hell out like a normal person, Ethan then busts open Mia's cell, freeing her. After which, he follows her through a series of rooms only for her to suddenly disappear. Ethan then ventures further into the house in search for her, only to be greeted by a knock on the very door he just left from. Mia then launches a series of attacks at Ethan with a knife, stabbing him in his hand over and over and over again. Eventually, Ethan finds an axe and has no choice but to kill her in self-defense. After doing so, he puts down the axe and leaves the room, and Mia behind. Except wait, she isn't dead! Mia then jumps at Ethan, pinning his hand to a wall with a screwdriver, and then cutting it off with a chainsaw. By the way, all of this happened to the same hand. Deciding that no amount of couples counseling will ever heal both the wound in his heart and the wound in his hand, Ethan finds a gun to protect himself, and proceeds up to the attic to escape. There, he's attacked by Mia for a third and final time. Leaving him no choice, Ethan opens fires on Mia, putting her down for good. However, Ethan is attacked by a strange old man and is knocked out. He's then carried away to a new home, the Baker estate. There, he meets the Baker family, Jack Baker, Marguerite Baker, Lucas Baker, and Grandma. Now it is up to Ethan to not only escape the Bakers, but survive the night. Okay, I've tried writing this section at least 3 times now. Having to put down what you value about something in its entirety in such a short amount of time is, well, a challenge to say the least. Sure, I could talk about how much I love the gameplay, how satisfying it is for me. I could talk about how the story enthralls me and how the puzzles in the environment are so incredibly fun for me to explore. But I just don't think I know how to do that. So instead, I want to talk about how this game makes me feel. I think I've spent hours of my life right here, sitting here in the main menu screen, listening to this music. This melancholy feeling, so strange and unnatural, but yet puts me into a trance all the same. It's comforted me in times of stress and fear, made me feel that, while yes, the fear is still there, there's something beyond that. Something strange and a little frightful, but a newfound peace as well. I have a similar experience with the game's save theme as well. You see, in Resident Evil, the game's save room theme is very important. They serve as this reprieve from the struggle against the monsters, the evil that roams the hallways. It's a sign that, while yes, the danger is still there, you are in a safe place. But when it comes to Resident Evil 7's save room theme, I think the idea goes a little bit beyond the game for me. When I hear this game's music, I feel safe. It feels like I can finally just breathe. Sure, my struggles are still there, but that doesn't matter right now. For now, it's just me and this warm, melancholic tune. The Baker Estate. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what it is about this place. But when I'm here, when I'm playing this game, I know I should be scared, but to be honest, I'm not. And that is not to say that the game isn't scary. I assure you, it is. But for some reason or another, when I'm here, I feel at ease. I know these walls, both inside and out, like the back of my hands. I have played this game over and over and over and over and over and over so many times that it's almost kind of second nature to me. I know where the game's secrets are. I know some speedrunning tricks. Trust me, I know a lot. And I'm sure that for some people, the idea of knowing everything there is to know about a game kind of takes away the appeal of another playthrough. But for me, for this game, that's just not the case. I love running from and facing off the Bakers. I love solving the game's puzzles, learning its secrets. I just love experiencing everything that there is in this weird, wacky, spooky world. There's no really other way for me to describe it. Hell, if you play this game for the first time after watching this video, I cannot guarantee that you will have the same experience as me, or that you'll feel the same way I do by the end of it. All I know is that in my eyes, this game feels handcrafted for me. In my eyes, this game is perfect. And I know it's not objectively perfect, hell, nothing is, but for me, it's perfection. Everything about it just feels so handcrafted, so built to appeal to me. Every little detail is something I take so much joy in that I just can't help but love every aspect of this game. And while it might not be objectively perfect, hey, for me, I'll take it. However, if I had to choose one key factor that makes this game so infinitely replayable for me, well, I'd say it's the characters. Every character brings something unique to the table that makes them so captivating and entertaining for me. So I want to take this section here and talk about the characters and enemies that are in the game and why I think they are all fantastic in their own strange ways. Starting with the Molded. The Molded are the main enemy type of the game, coming in 4 varieties, which I like to call small, medium, large, and medium with ice. I adore their design in this game, being a tangled mess of mold, flesh, goop, and teeth. The fact that each Molded was actually once a person that has slowly been turned into these monsters has always fascinated me, and just the sheer volume of them just goes to show how many lives the bakers have taken. The mold will stumble around the environment almost lackadaisically. That is until you get too close, causing them to viciously latch out and grab you, hit you, or just take a bite. They have no clear weakness and can tank many shots. That is unless you shoot them in the head. While some people online have complained about the lack of enemy variety in this game, and I can definitely see why, I feel that the mold are perfect for the story and world of this game. They are biological monsters created in the Baker estate with a virus that slowly erodes and corrupts human beings. And fighting them in combat is always a blast, with each one having their own abilities, strengths, weaknesses, and tactics for dealing with properly. And while I do agree that they could have done more with the mold, allowing for more enemy variety, what's on display here is still incredibly fun. Also, I just really like blowing them up.
Dude, it's been 3 years.
I know, but what if it is her? I have to find out what happened.
Ethan Winters. Ethan is you. Earlier in the video, I described Ethan as sparkly human cardboard. And I'm right. In Resident Evil 7 specifically, Ethan is not so much a character as he is more of a surrogate for the player. Ethan has no real characterization in this game besides just being an average dude looking for his wife. However, by being such a blank slate, it allows the player to imprint themselves onto Ethan and put themselves in his shoes. Also, with the added benefit of the game being put in a first-person perspective, it allows the player to often feel more like themselves rather than the character of Ethan Winters. It's not Ethan being hunted down by the Bakers, it's you, the player. Ethan is there more for story reasons, like giving the characters in the world someone to talk and interact with. So while Ethan might be a bit more on the bland side compared to the usual Resident Evil veterans, like Leon or Jill, there are these moments, these tiny little things that Ethan will say that make him so endearing to me. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what it is, but Ethan is like this gold mine for these hilariously odd and quirky one-liners that I just can't help but quote anytime I'm playing the game.
What the fuck? Well, that's special.
It's like he's seeing all of these freaky, weird things, and he just does not care. Ethan Winters is not fazed by shit.
This is getting old, Jack.
Any guy who can get his hand cut off and then staple it back together and just not mention it or complain about it at all is just metal to the max, and probably a little bit crazy. And guess what? That's Ethan Winters. And yeah, sure, Ethan's silence is probably the result of the developers not wanting to impede on the player's experience, but it creates this sensation that Ethan Winters is this psychotic dude who does not care or is afraid of anything. It's hilariously entertaining. So while personality-wise he might seem a bit cardboard, his lack of personality is what makes him the most insane out of everyone in the game. The dude may be a little bit cardboard, but hey, I love him.
Ethan, it's okay. It's okay, it's me. I know you didn't mean to hurt me.
Mia Winters. Mia is savage. Just like her husband, when Mia is normal and not trying to unhand you, she's pretty bland. But when Mia goes to her infected form, she is absolutely brutal. Mia is vicious. She'll attack the player with a wild and crazy series of attacks, requiring the player to either shoot her in the head, block, or just run the hell away. But even then, that won't work, as if you do run, Mia will sprint right after you, and if not prevented, will one-shot kill you. Every time I replay this section, I am always terrified of her boss fight in the attic of the guest house. All I can do is hope to run and hide behind those walls and doors, but even those don't stop her. I also really love her facial expressions in this game, looking contorted and diseased with this pure look of insanity on her face. It's fantastic. Her encounters in the game are an absolute thrill and are truly a highlight of the opening for me. Without a doubt, any fight with Mia in it genuinely puts the word survival in survival horror.
You really shouldn't have come here.
Who's this? And what the fuck is going on?
My name's Zoe.
Zoe Baker. Zoe is honestly better in concept. In essence, her main role throughout the whole game is to guide the player from afar with phone calls that help move the plot along. Anytime she calls you, it's to tell the player what to do next and to give them a sense of direction in the story. However, aside from that, she plays no real role in the game's story or gameplay. In the main game, all she does, aside from calling the player, is provide her trailer as a save room and be a part of what is essentially a pointless choice near the end of the game. However, I think Zoe's character and concept is extremely compelling. Being the only Baker family member to still hold on to their humanity, she must remain hidden from the rest of her family or risk being killed or worse. No matter how much she might want to leave, since she's been infected by the same virus as the rest of her family, she has no choice but to stay on the Baker estate or risk being killed by the very virus within her. So, Zoe spends her days trying to undermine her family and survive, all while looking for a cure. Honestly, it's a great concept. I really wish the main game put more focus on her and her story. It's one of the most compelling in the whole game. However, while the main game doesn't put enough focus on it, thankfully it's in the DLC where her story is fleshed out more. But we'll get to that later.
Stay the fuck out!
Marguerite Baker. Marguerite is hilarious. Being the mother of the Baker family, she is the main enemy of the third part of the game, the Old House. The Old House is a place that is completely under Marguerite's control, and is basically living panic attack for anyone with entomophobia. Marguerite represents the fear of bugs, insects, and other little critters. She travels around the house placing beehives, massive wasps, and spiders all over the walls to attack the players. And, if she encounters the player, she'll send bugs at you to attack. However, as someone without entomophobia, I just think she's a riot. She's just a massive ball of curses and swears that is so creative and unique it would give a small Victorian child a heart attack.
All right, you little cock!
Whenever Marguerite chases the player, I ain't scared at all, dude. Not in the slightest. Honestly, I think it's more fun just to run up to her and blast her till she runs away, rather than trying to avoid her. I swear, half of all her dialogue in the game is just a curse, and it has me dying every time. It's so freaking funny. However, the same cannot be said about her mutated boss battle form. There, her limbs are elongated, and her body becomes deformed, becoming grotesque, half human, half insect. It has definitely got to be one of my favorite designs in the whole game. In that form, she crawls up and down the walls of the greenhouse, stalking the player. If you're not paying attention, she'll jump down from above and smash you into the ground, taking a massive bite out of your neck. During her fight, she'll also sneak away and hide onto the walls and give birth to hives of bugs. It's really freaking gross. This boss fight is awesome, playing into a lot of different fears such as body horror and also just general gross out horror. I always find this fight really intense, as Marguerite's speed and strength can be really overwhelming, but as a good boss battle should be. No matter what form Marguerite takes, she is always entertaining. Her boss battle is a thrill, her dialogue has me cackling, and her death?
Just fucking stay dead, okay?
Mwah. Perfection.
You, my friend, you are one lucky son of a bitch. You know, I actually envy you. What? You don't believe me? This toy? Well, you can't fake this.
Lucas Baker. Lucas is Jigsaw. Like straight up, the man is Jigsaw. His whole gimmick is that he's a genius engineer who loves creating puzzles and death traps to torture people. However, I'm not complaining. I love solving puzzles. So Lucas being a demented puzzle master is right up my alley. Without a doubt, his section of the game is always the most fun for me. Navigating this asshole's death traps is so incredibly fun, and I love solving puzzles, dodging his traps, and beating him at his own game. Mwah. So satisfying.
That was supposed to be for you, goddammit!
As a massive lover of escape rooms, his escape room like death room is definitely a highlight of his entire section, hands down. But without a doubt, I think the thing that makes Lucas Baker so appealing to me is his bad shit crazy personality. He is definitely the most insane baker, and I am so here for it, dude. Just like his mom, Lucas cracks me up every time. I love the lines this guy delivers so much that I still just randomly quote them to this day.
Now that would be telling, Ethan. And I don't do spoilers.
But without a doubt, this man is not scary, not in the slightest. But what he lacks in scares, he more than makes up for in sheer entertainment. A psychotic, demented puzzle master is such an odd way for this game to take, especially when it's all about biomonsters. But dude, I am so down with it. Lucas is just so much fun and is so entertaining as a character. Seriously, I could watch this a-hole for hours.
Oh, shit!
Jack Baker. Jack is fucking terrifying. Without a shadow of a doubt, Jack Baker is the scariest enemy in the whole game. And out of all the Bakers, he is definitely my second favorite. He would be my number one if it weren't for one other Baker, but we'll get to him later. Jack is the main enemy of the second portion of the game, the main house. And no matter how many times I replay this game, this entire section is the only part that can consistently scare me over and over again. Even when replaying the game to get the footage you're seeing right now, I could still feel the sheer terror and panic of Jack chasing me as I did in my very first playthrough. Every time Jack does this, I nearly have a heart attack. What makes Jack Baker so terrifying for me is his unstoppable nature and his twisted personality. No matter how many times you shoot Jack, it will never stop him for good. He shrugs off almost every shot in the game, relentlessly approaching you, no matter what. Hell, if you unload all your ammo into him and manage to somehow down him, that will not last forever. Give him a few minutes to catch his breath and he'll be right back at it again.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
However, this is nothing new to the Resident Evil franchise. Ever since Resident Evil 2 in 1998 with Mr. X, a massive boss enemy that stalks the player, has been a staple of the franchise. Except what I believe makes Jack Baker more intimidating than your Mr. X's or your Nemesis is the fact that Jack Baker is invulnerable and he knows it. To make a long story short, Jack Baker does not care about anything. He will destroy his own body. He will blast himself into bits. He'll let you pulverize him. Why? Because he knows he can't be stopped. Jack's healing factor is so insane, he knows whatever damage is done to him cannot stop him for good. At this point for Jack, it's all just a game for him. He laughs, he mocks you, he just takes joy in your sheer terror and suffering. And while you might think being chased down by a middle-aged old man isn't as terrifying as a giant tentacle monster, I'd argue Jack's design plays a huge role in his fear factor. Seeing what should be this mild-mannered middle-aged old man go from this to this creates such an odd cognitive disconnect within me that I cannot help but be unnerved. His design, his gameplay functions, his dialogue, his personality, all of it come together to create the character of Jack Baker. He is without a doubt the scariest factor in this game and my absolute favorite enemy in the Resident Evil franchise. Grandma. Grandma is an oddity. When going throughout the game for the first time, you'll probably notice something odd about Grandma. Out of all the Bakers, she's the only one that doesn't really quite fit in. She doesn't antagonize the player, she doesn't say anything, she can't be interacted with. The player can't even aim at her. All she does is just randomly appear at the main house throughout the game in various rooms, sitting there, silently. For majority of the game, she remains a mystery, this strange thing that you just can't quite explain, and the game doesn't even acknowledge. That is until...
Now do you remember?
Yes, Evelyn. I remember.
Can we be a family like before?
No, Evie. We can't be a family. We were never a family. We will never be a family.
Then I don't need you anymore.
Evelyn. Evelyn is the twist. Throughout the whole game, every character refers to this unseen little girl. Characters talk about her giving them a gift and how she wants them to be a family. Meanwhile, the player will occasionally come across things like photos of a young girl, kids' toys, memos of things about the bakers finding a young girl, and even glimpses of this girl referring to Mia as her, quote, mommy. Evelyn is that little girl and the true cause of everything in the game. Later in the game, it is revealed that Evelyn is actually a living bioweapon called the E001 and was created by a group called the Connections. It is then revealed that Mia was once working for the Connections and was assigned to take the role of Evelyn's mother. Eventually, Evelyn would develop an obsession with the concept of family and decide to escape the Connections. She single-handedly destroyed a cargo ship that Mia and her were on, letting them both in Louisiana. There, they were both found by Jack Baker and brought back to the Baker estate, where Evelyn infected them all, controlling them, and making her new family. I think this explanation for all the events in the game are pure genius. It really does do a fantastic job at tying together all the loose plot threads and hints scattered throughout the game, tying the story together in this nice, neat little bow. And that's not even the end of it. It is then revealed that Grandma was Evelyn this whole time. Without the proper treatment from the Connections, Evelyn's body began to rapidly deteriorate, causing her to rapidly age from a young girl to an elderly woman in just a few years. And guess what? That's still not the end, because this information was told to you from the very beginning of the game. This twist is freaking awesome, dude. It is so satisfying seeing all the loose ends in the game be tied up so neatly, and it really adds this nice extra layer of cohesion to the whole product. This is one of the biggest reasons why I find this game so replayable. Discovering all the hints towards the truth spread about in your second playthrough is not only incredibly satisfying for me, but it also recontextualizes a lot of the odder moments earlier on in the game. It adds such a delicious layer to the game's story and characters that I will always enjoy. This game's characters are what make it so compelling for me. Each one of them is so memorable and so entertaining that their personalities, their design, their dialogue, their story has stuck with me for years. Honestly, it feels like each one of them was perfectly crafted to appeal to a part of me, appeal to my humor, my intrigue, my terror. And that appeal doesn't just end with them. Every part of these characters and their story is sewn deep within the environments and walls of their spooky house as well.
Ethan?
Hey, shh, I know. I'm not gonna hurt you. Hell, I never would have if I could have helped you.
What do you mean?
I'm no killer, son. Neither is Marguerite, nor my boy Lucas, or even Zoe here. That girl, Evelyn, she did this.
What the hell is she? Now, what did she do to you?
She infected us with her gift. That's what she calls it. I found her near a busted out tanker in the bayou. Everything changed after that.
So she infects you and then she takes control?
No. Not exactly, son. She just... she forces her way into your mind, your soul. You can't fight back. You are connected to her, and you can't resist the urge to... Oh, you're a different person after that.
Just like Mia. So Mia sent me that message because of Evelyn.
Listen, the girl just wants a family of her own. She's the key, all right? You find her, and you stop her. Ethan, free my family. Please.
This here is my favorite scene in the whole game. Up until this point, the player has been running around in fear of the insane Baker family. You see the Bakers as the demented monsters that they've been turned into, torturing you, putting you through hell. However, at this point the player is aware of Evelyn and her control over the Baker family, and as such, the game gives you this moment on the inside of the hive mind of the mold. This here is the real Jack Baker, not the insane man he was turned into, but a kind father trapped within his own body. It's at this point you start to realize that the story of Resident Evil 7 is a tragedy, the tragedy of the Baker family. That's what I believe makes the setting of Resident Evil 7 so captivating, even compared to other Resident Evils. Sure, the Baker estate has your standard puzzles and keys, which are a staple of the franchise, and do not get me wrong, I love the puzzle box environment on display here. As I said before, Lucas's section earlier and the main estate is so good, I love it. But what I believe this game does more unique compared to the other Resident Evils is its heavy emphasis on environmental storytelling and using it to tell the story of the Bakers, who they were in the past, how they became who they are now, and what their life used to look like before becoming this. You see old pictures of the family in the past strung up on the walls, messages of them being concerned for each other's health, rooms that almost looked comforting at one point. I can truly feel the humanity that these people once had, humanity taken from them by Evelyn. These were once good people, living normal lives, a sentiment shown in every haunted hallway of this once kind-hearted family estate. Okay, except for Lucas. He actually killed a kid named Oliver in his attic a few years ago by starving him to death. Yeah, sorry, Jack. Resident Evil 7 is the perfect survival horror game in my eyes. It encompasses everything I love about the genre. Tense horror, captivating story, strategic gameplay, it has it all. I think its setting is one of the best in the franchise, being such a joy to explore every inch of this infected southern home. Its characters and the story have captivated me for years, becoming one of my personal favorites. It has given me so many memories that I will never forget, and it's even had a hand in not only defining my taste in media, but just me as a whole. Thank you everyone for watching. I just want to say, wait, hang on, what's this? Oh.
Days have left many residents in some of the
Why are you doing this? The pretties my little girl is giving me!
Ah, come on, you didn't think it was over now, did you? Nuh-uh-uh. We got DLC to cover, baby. And you too, with a small donation of $30 on Steam, can be the proud owner of 7, that's right, 7 extra game modes that not only flesh out the game's story and characters, but are also just a whole heckin' lot of fun. The DLC is some of my favorite content in the entire game.
It's also the sole reason I haven't 100%ed the game yet.
Fuck! So then, let's start with the mode that's the goofiest of them all.
Let's go!
Jack's 55th birthday. Well, 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 would you look what time it is? It's Jack's 55th birthday, and boy oh boy is he hungry. Now it's up to you, as Mia, to collect some delicious food from around the estate to give Jack the birthday meal he deserves. Man, I absolutely love this game mode. It's not scary, it's not even story-based, it's just good old-fashioned video game fun. It's just a simple arcade-style game mode where you collect food from around the level and feed it to Jack until he's full. You know, I love how Capcom took this game that was built upon its frightening atmosphere and creepy characters and just said, hey, you know what? This is Jack Baker now. Honestly, this mode just feels so festive and lighthearted that I can't help but smile every time I play it. There's also a fair bit of challenge as well. Trying to get the top S or SS ranks on these stages ain't always the easiest, and relies heavily on your knowledge of a strategy on how to properly slow down the clock. But of course, your boy already got that on lock.
Yeah, boy.
There's also just a ton of fun and wacky unlockables that you can get with each higher rank per stage. These unlockables can range from various weapons to stat boosts for your health and speed, time boosters, whatnot. Get enough of these high ranks though, and you can unlock my favorite gun in the entire mode, the Golden Blaster. And I mean, come on, look what it can do to these enemies, man. It's like, how is that not awesome? I mean, for real, this mode is filled with so many fun weapons, music, enemy designs, and gameplay that it's kind of infectious how much fun and joyful it is. For real, what is not to love about this game mode? Like, come on, look at this molded. He's got a party hat on. That's so freaking funny and adorable. I love it. Ethan must die. Hi there, and welcome to the only real negative part of this video, otherwise known as Ethan Must Die. If you do not like cursing or general rage, please skip to this timestamp. Thank you very much. Fuck Ethan Must Die! God, this mode is infuriating!
Fuck you!
And yes, I know, to those who played it, it's only fair, you're just bad, get good. Yeah, but like, come on, dude. Really? This thing is freaking brutal. I am barely going to edit the footage here because I want you to see, I want you to witness just how far I got on each attempt. Answer? Not even far. Hell, I barely got past the opening portion. This right here is the reason I cannot get 100% on Steam yet. Alright, y'all, listen up. This mode relies heavily on RNG. Since the player only starts out the mode with a knife, you're basically required to go around the environment and look for wooden boxes to break, which will randomly drop some loot. However, even these are rigged. Some of the boxes are actually bombs that can one-shot kill you. And I mean, yeah, you can go up to the boxes and listen if there's ticking or not, indicating if it's a bomb. But like, when I have a molten monster on my rear end, I don't have time to listen to some ticking. But that's the thing. This game mode is filled to the brim with a bunch of traps and other random brutal BS that I didn't even get to. I would love to show you, trust me, I really, really would. But you know, I died. And I mean, yeah, I guess there are some things I like about this mode. I enjoy how when you die, it places a little angel figure where you died, and if you break it, it can give you a random item that was in your previous inventory. That's neat. And you know, I like how it plays a bit of the game's opening theme, Go Tell Aunt Rhody, when you die as well. Very cool. But, you notice how I'm only talking about things that happen when you die? That's because that's all you're going to be doing for majority of this mode. So, yeah, nope, I don't like it. I don't like Ethan Must Die. Maybe someday I'll beat it and then my opinion will change, but for right now, ain't no way. I'm gonna throw this thing in the trash.
Oh, where am I? You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Nightmare. Whew. Nightmare is exhausting. It's not bad by any means, and honestly, I can see the appeal. It's just, wow. Man, am I tired after playing it. The mode is basically a gauntlet of enemies that come in waves that you have to deal with, all while collecting scrap for supplies, upgrades, and access to other parts of the map. However, for me, it's just so overwhelming. I feel way too underpowered at all times, especially considering the sheer amount of enemies you have to go up against. However, that doesn't mean I dislike the mode. I actually quite enjoy it, especially the purchasing and upgrading system. Having a large amount of items and upgrades at the player's hands, but with so little money, really requires the player to stop and think. What's worth saving the money on? What could they use in the future? And what do they need to survive right now? It makes for a really good supply management system that's really engaging. I also really like how the scrap system works too. Once you go around the environment and get the generators running, they start to produce scrap, the currency for this mode. The longer you let the generators go without taking any scrap, the more total scrap will generate when you come to collect. I think this scrap system is really cool. It encourages the player to go around the environment and collect scrap from various machines instead of just standing and grinding at one machine. It also encourages the player to leave the machines alone for a while to let the scrap produce, forcing the player to struggle for a while with the scrap that they currently have. Now, while all that is really fun and engaging, I'm gonna be honest with you. I do not think these environments were made for this mode, because they weren't.
Get him up, let him get up, let him get up, let him get up. Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
I really just feel like there are far too many enemies in this mode to properly deal with and fully enjoy. I mean, my favorite part about combat in Resident Evil 7 was its slow, methodical nature, and the system that rewarded accuracy over just spamming. Taking my time, properly placing my shots, keeping my distance from my enemies, all of that is what I loved about combat in the main game. However, here in this mode, I just feel so overwhelmed that it's practically impossible for me to take my time and fight my enemies properly. There were also a lot of moments where there were so many enemies on screen that they would trap me in a corner and just keep whacking me until I died. Just over and over. Ultimately, this mode just feels too hectic and action-oriented for me to really enjoy properly, unlike all the other modes in the game, which I really enjoy. Almost. If you like this mode, hey, awesome. More power to you. I'm so glad you enjoy it. For real. I just don't think it's really for me personally without amping myself up a bit, you know?
Sleep well, darling?
Bedroom. Now this is my kind of pace. Bedroom is a short but sweet escape room where you must scour the room and solve puzzles, all while staying under Marguerite's radar as she comes in to check up on you. However, here's the catch. You are not supposed to be out of bed right now, so when Marguerite walks in, if she sees you out of bed or notices that anything in the room has changed, well then... Yeah, it's not good. I think this premise is extremely fun and so unique. The main game already had a touch of escape room feel with Lucas's birthday section, so seeing them go all the way for an actual escape room is awesome. I think the thing I love the most about this mode is the cat and mouse game of trying to remain undetected by Marguerite when she comes into the room. Not only does it require the player to really remember how the room was originally oriented, but also that means they need to really know what to move and when to put it back before the timer goes off and they're caught red-handed. I also really think the puzzles here are great as well. They really require the player to think outside the box for some of these answers. And I don't really know what else to say. It's just a great escape room all around. Even if you're not a fan of escape rooms, really, give it a shot. It's a ton of fun.
What the? Where am I?
"21. Okay, this one here is special to me. So you know how in the beginning of the video, I talked about how Nick was the one who played the game while I watched? Now, while that was true for pretty much, all of the main game, this mode right here, this was all me. No spooks, no FPS gameplay, just a modified version of 21 with some crazy cards. And that might sound a bit simple, but it really is. For me, there's nothing really stressful about this mode. Ignore what's going on with the left hand there. I have so many memories of me spending countless hours just running through this game's survivor mode over and over again, trying to beat it without getting damaged, trying to do all the special requirements to get all the trump cards, just playing for fun. I absolutely love the strategic gameplay on display here. Trying to figure out what cards must still be in the deck based on what I can currently see, using trump cards to mess with my opponents and give me the advantage, and I just love this guy, this dude right here. I already talked about how much I love the Molded, and how I think the process of seeing them go from human to monster is so interesting to me, so seeing that on display here too is really freaking cool. And he knows how to play cards, come on, that's freaking awesome. Anytime I just want to relax and play a little strategy game, this is always my go-to. It feels so good to beat an enemy in one turn, know when to use what trump card and how, finding ways to overcome my opponent and outsmart them. God, it just tingles my brain. I love it. Seriously, if you love card games or just strategy games in general, you gotta check this one out. It's so fun. Honestly, I love this mode so much that when I was younger, I actually tried to recreate it in real life with real cards. Minus the finger cutting. Maybe. Nah, I'm just kidding.
I know. All are welcome. Mama, is that you? Zoe, come look. Come see her gift. Look at all the pretties my little girl is giving me!
Daughters. The beginning. The start of it all. The start of the entire story of Resident Evil 7 and the start of my story with the game as well. We've now come full circle. And even after all the years since I first played it, I still think the story that's on display here in this DLC is single-handedly the most compelling part of the entire game, hands down. This is where I think Zoe's character is utilized beautifully. Being put in her perspective on the most tragic and impactful night of her life is extremely effective. I truly feel her fear and vulnerability every time I play this mode. Feeling these terrifying presence corner you closer and closer as you progress throughout the house, trying to escape, is thrilling, endlessly heart-pounding. But as if the gameplay wasn't scary enough, you have the added knowledge on who you are in this moment. I mean, think about it. Zoe is seeing her parents slowly become monsters, forced into a crazed state. The people she should be able to trust the most in the entire world are trying to attack and kill her, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. Honestly, I can only imagine how Zoe must be feeling in these moments. Seeing her mom beg some unseen entity not to harm her, seeing her dad drag away her brother, kicking and screaming, begging to be let go, witnessing her entire family go from their kind, normal selves to psychotic monsters as they fight and scream not to do what's being forced upon them. It's heart-wrenching, yet the story of it is endlessly gripping. Now, without a doubt, I think this is the perfect example of what makes Zoe as a character so interesting. She's a survivor, she's the one who struggles through it all, and being able to see that struggle firsthand really endears me to Zoe's character. I've always thought that the most compelling part of this game is the story of the Bakers. And with this DLC, not only do you get to see the beginning of the Bakers' downfall, but you get to see something far more important. The Bakers just being themselves. While it's only for a brief moment, in this instance, you get to see the Bakers just be a normal family. It's really captivating. I just love seeing who these people were before their downfall, what their life was like before being turned into something else entirely. It makes their inevitable corruption and transformation that much more frightening and jarring to me. The choice to only provide the player with a lighter is a brilliant one to me. Since the player has no real weapons throughout the entirety of this DLC, their only comfort comes from the light of the lighter. However, not only does the game sometimes take away the lighter, frightening the player, but it also requires the player to step out of their comfort zone and put the lighter away manually, as enemies can see the light from the lighter alerting them to your location. But having to sneak around in total darkness is petrifying. Like, honestly, look how long I was just standing on the stairs watching Marguerite because I was too scared of her spotting me. Congratulations, Marguerite. You are officially scary. I could seriously go on for days just talking about how much I love what's on display here in this DLC. It is without a doubt the scariest and most fascinating part in the entirety of Resident Evil 7. Man, I can't believe I thought this would be a good place to start without being scared. What a freaking idiot I was.
Chris, did we lose him?
No. Ethan Winters has been secured. He's alive and well considering.
And Lucas Baker? Right now, he's our only link to the connections.
He's next on my list.
Not a hero. Here we go. Some Resident Evil content that pushes the story forward. Set only a few hours after the events of the main game, in this DLC you play as Resident Evil veteran Chris Redfield. Chris is a badass, monster-fighting, boulder-punching agent of the BSAA, and now, after sleeping through the entirety of the main game, it's up to him to take out Lucas Baker. I think this DLC freaking rocks. Not only is it one of the best expansions on the main game story, but it also gives me one of my favorite dynamics in the whole game, Chris and Lucas. So, let's start off with the main man himself, Chris Redfield. After being basically a drunken mess on RE6, and getting what it's got to be the most miraculous plastic surgery I've ever seen, Chris Redfield is back. Right off the bat, Chris feels completely different from Ethan. While playing as Ethan, I often felt vulnerable no matter the situation, which is good for a survival horror game. But as Chris motherfucking Redfield, dude, I feel like an unstoppable unit. You can even feel this difference in the gameplay as well. The way Chris holds his gun more straight on feels way more professional and precise compared to Ethan. His arsenal is far better equipped with a lot more harder hitting weapons. He can do this cool CSGO counterflip thing with his knife.
Let's roll.
And, oh yeah, the fact that he can punch Staggered Molded in the face, destroying their heads. It's awesome. Chris is an absolute beast and does a really good job at making the player feel like a hardened professional. And yes, this does take away from the horror aspect of the game, but it's still enjoyable. Just playing as Chris tearing through enemies is so much fun. Seriously, this is Chris Redfield back in form far more than the last games, and it's really great to see here.
You won't get any sympathy from me, asshole.
I know. I've done terrible things. Horrible things. I killed your man. I tortured them. And I enjoyed every second, soldier boy.
Now, I've already talked about Lucas in depth previously, but I really wanted to quickly shout out how much fun he is here, especially in contrast to Chris. Seeing this little dweeb mock and annoy the hell out of this experienced professional soldier is so freaking funny to me. Their back and forth throughout the DLC is straight gold, endlessly entertaining. I am a big fan of this scene here.
Lucas.
Oh, Jesus, what the hell?
Lucas!
I also really adore Lucas's ending boss fight in this game. In the main game, Lucas was the only antagonist that didn't have a boss battle of any kind. However, here he finally gets one. I love his mutated design. I think the triple skull head is a really cool choice, and the massive body made of white mold is intimidating far more than Lucas himself ever was. Now, with Lucas being the main antagonist of this DLC, it makes me so happy to see his love for traps and puzzles carry over to the level design here. The level design feels very similar to a Metroidvania, with multiple routes opening up to the player from the start, but requiring different items scattered throughout the level in order to make it through successfully. It's just a lot of fun navigating the different routes and dodging the various traps. It's great. I'm so glad that they came back for this DLC. There's even a new enemy type included here called the White Molded, monsters that are invulnerable to your normal weapons but can be damaged by a new round called the Ramrods. I really love their designs too. They have these longer arms, rounder bellies, and covered in what I think is hair? I'm not quite sure. They kind of remind me of a sloth. As to what makes someone turn into a normal molded versus a white molded,
I don't know.
Either way, this DLC is absolutely one of my favorites in the whole game and is something I cannot recommend highly enough. If you love the characters in the main game and you want to see their story continue, please check this out. It's great.
Okay, Lucas. It's just you and me. I can't wait to get my hands on that asshole.
You what?
I had to use one of them. There's only one left.
It's fine. It was foolish thinking I could escape. I'm sure there's someone who can help.
This is my home. Apparently I belong here.
I'll send help.
Don't bother. There won't be anyone left to help! No! Evie! Please!
End of Zoe. So, here it is. The end of the DLC. The end of Resident Evil 7. It's the end of Zoe. And let me be the first to tell you, this DLC slaps. This is the end of Resident Evil 7, and it follows this man, Joe Baker, before unseen brother of Jack Baker, as he searches for a cure for Zoe, who has been dying since the end of the main game. Now, while I have some problems with End of Zoe, mainly in regards to Zoe's treatment and underutilization, it is one of my favorite modes in the whole game, and it's all thanks to the newly introduced Baker member, Joe Baker. If I described Ethan as sparkly cardboard, then I described Joe Baker as the motherfucking Doom guy.
That's how you get it done. Woo!
Joe is without a doubt my favorite character in this whole game. Guns? Pfft, you don't need them. Just punch him in the teeth, you idiot. Joe Baker ain't got time to be scared. I'm telling you, this DLC is just as invigorating and exciting as Daughters, but for the exact opposite reason. Playing as a crazed swamp man running around beating the shit out of monsters and eating bugs to heal is insane, but god is it fun. And while you might think that makes Joe Baker just a little overpowered compared to what you've seen so far, you'd be damn right. And guess what? As you play through the DLC, you only get stronger. Throughout the map, if you look hard enough, you'll find these things called boxer effigies. These little items just make your moves stronger and stronger with every single one that you find. Well, that must be because the player starts out very weak. Nope! Even in the beginning of the game, Joe is an unstoppable killing machine. He can kill just as many molded in the beginning as he can in the end. And then he gets the power glove.
Ready for use.
God, it's so ridiculous. However, Joe isn't completely unopposed. He has to deal with a literal swamp monster who wants to take Zoe and kill Joe. But, get this. It is revealed that the swamp monster is actually Jack Baker, Joe's brother himself. After constantly mutating and being destroyed over and over again in the main game, Jack's body has fused with the swamp around him, becoming a magical combination of living swamp creature and kickboxer. I am so glad Jack came back for the final installment of Resident Evil 7's story. As my favorite part of the main game, it is so cool to fight him again. And despite him being, well, very different from how he was in the main game, both in look and in fear factor, I still love his depiction here. Now Jack doesn't just kill you, but he whoops your ass with combos and super moves. It's awesome. And I mean, come on. How can you not like the brother versus brother conflict? It's so compelling here. I just love how in the final boss fight, Joe starts talking to Jack about them growing up together. It really builds that connection between the two in my mind, and it validates Joe as a character in this world, despite not being mentioned before this DLC.
You remember me, right? You remember the time I broke your nose when we were kids? You remember when I clotheslined you into the swamp?
And Jack's death.
It's a farewell from the family, brother.
perfection. However, my biggest complaint for this DLC has to do with the namesake herself, Zoe. I think Zoe is criminally underutilized throughout this whole game. Instead of being able to play as her in the final installment of the story, the game creates a never before heard of character instead. And while I do love Jo, I think after everything she went through in the story, Zoe deserves to be the final playable character to send off the game. And yeah, while they wouldn't allow for the punch mechanic as we know it, I still think a stealth-based, horror-focused DLC could have worked as well. Maybe instead, Zoe could have developed powers from her new mold form, which the player could have used on enemies. I'm not sure, but while I still love the DLC to death, I definitely think the character who deserved it the most got snubbed at the end. For me, Resident Evil 7 is the complete package. It has everything I love in a game. Compelling gameplay, captivating environments, memorable characters, fantastic music, and an incredibly fun story. The main game is some of the best Resident Evil and even just survival horror content there is out there. Each DLC is so fun and unique to one another that it adds to so many different yet connected experiences to this game's already wonderful package. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This game truly feels like it was made for me. It has been something that has stuck with me for years now and has had a massive impact on my life. So, for real this time, thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Capcom, for making my favorite game of all time, Resident Evil 7. Also, if anyone has the collector's edition of this game and you feel like parting with it, hit me up. It looks so freaking cool!